Before the women's revolution, there was AJ Lee, the woman who broke the mold, carried the division on her back, and proved that women's wrestling is more than just filler to use between men's matches. Today, we are diving into why AJ Lee wasn't just good, she was essential to shaping the WWE as we know it today. But before we get into that, I know you might have some questions. First, why am I here? Well, this is my parents' home and I'm visiting my parents during the weekend, so I just wanted to get this video out to you guys. Second question is, why are you not reviewing WrestlePalooza? And the reason for that is, I just don't have much to say. I don't want to just go through it beat by beat without having much to say. So here's my kind of like a quick recap. It was okay. That's basically all I can say about it. It was an okay event. My expectations were a little bit too high, and I'm not afraid to admit that, because I expected a lot, and we just got an okay PLE. If my expectations weren't that high, I would be completely fine with it. Right now, I'm kind of disappointed, especially with the John Cena-Brock Lesnar match, and just nothing really happening on the PLE. But again, expectation is the thief of joy, and I expected too much. Again, not really afraid to admit it. But there were some really big highlights from this show. For example, Stephanie Vaquero versus Io Sky. Amazing. I expected a lot. I got even more than I expected. Then AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Again, cooked as well. It was amazing. But apart from that, we didn't get anything big. We didn't get anything special, which is, again, my expectations, my fault. But now, before we actually start doing all of that, please, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm really new around here and I'm trying to achieve my dreams, so you doing any or all of those would be really helpful. Thank you. Now, AJ Lee joined WWE in 2012 and she left in 2015, so in just 3 years, she had made a huge impact. What kind of impact, you might ask? Let's get into that. First off, she has the joint most WWE Divas Championships. In just 3 years. The Divas Championship was around for much longer than that, but only in 3 years she has the joint most. And she even, during that time, had the longest reign of the Divas Championship, which was actually her first reign from June 16th, 2013 to April 7th, 2014. Her other two reigns wouldn't be as long, but they wouldn't be bad either, they would just be kind of okay. But during her first reign, she was one of the biggest things on WWE television. She would also become the first woman to defend the Divas Championship on WrestleMania, which I know some of you might be saying, oh, the women's belts have been defended on WrestleMania before. Yes, they were, but the Divas weren't. Now, to really understand what the Divas era was, it's really hard to explain. It's really hard to explain because it was one of the biggest lows for anyone in professional wrestling ever. And that was the entire female division. During the Divas era, the women were treated just like side acts. The women were bigger in the WWE during the earlier eras than in the Divas era. And that was really sad to see because there were some incredibly talented women in that division, including AJ Lee herself. So her defending the title belt at WrestleMania was a really big thing. Since the last time any women's belt was defended was in 2007, 7 years before this one. Huge thing. She would also call out WWE for treating women as basically a second-class act, and she was doing this while she was still being hired by the WWE, which is one of the wildest things I've seen because she would even call them out publicly. She would do it on Twitter at Stephanie McMahon. Your female wrestlers have record-selling merchandise and have starred in the highest segment of the show several times, and yet they receive a fraction of the wages and screen time of the majority of the male roster. Hashtag use your voice. And this was a huge thing back in the day. Some of you guys might not have been around for it, some of you might not even remember it, but I do, I clearly do, because this was just around the time when I was really getting into wrestling, and I remember when this came out, I was like, oh shit, someone's getting fired, and she didn't. it actually had the opposite effect. It had the effect she really wanted it to have. Because Stephanie McMahon would reply with, you know what? You do be kind of right. So you could basically recognize this tweet and this whole drama as the moment the women's evolution started. Because after all this shenanigans that have went down there, the women would finally start getting their chance. AJ Lee being possibly the biggest reason for that. I'm not saying she was the only one. There's always multiple reasons for everything. But she might have just been the biggest one. She was also one of the biggest merch sellers in the WWE during her time there. And that's not just among women. That's among men as well. She would sometimes even top the charts. And that just made WWE aware of how, with the right branding, even a woman could get over. And she did. She would constantly get over. There's a reason why when she came back, a lot of fans lost their minds. And she really showed to the WWE how big the women could get. And she did it on her own. She didn't care about these strangles of the Divas division. She said, you know what? I'm gonna get over and there's nothing you can do about it. And they couldn't. The only person who could do something about it was herself, as she would leave the WWE in 2015 due to medical reasons, whether it be psychological stuff, physical injury related stuff, or it played a big factor. Her husband CM Punk had just left the WWE as well, and it was not a pretty divorce, let me tell you about that. So this whole thing kind of ended really prematurely, and I'm really glad she's back now, because she is the inspiration for so many women in this division, especially the younger ones. And she was even cited as the biggest inspirations, whether it be in ring or outside of the ring, by Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. She's also someone who advocated for therapy and psychological awareness in the wrestling business as well as outside of it. And those therapy chants you heard during her Raw promo, those were not just some kind of a joke. Those were real, because she really did that, whether it be through her books or through her interviews or whatever it might be. She's always been outspoken about it and about her mental health troubles as well. So again, played a really big part in that as well, and that's something that just can't be understated. So with all this, I think her influence on the women's evolution also can't be understated, because she was acknowledged many times by WWE itself on many occasions as the reason for the women's evolution. And that was even before she was brought back, knowing full well they hate her, they hate her husband. They had to recognize it. If that doesn't tell you all you should know, I don't think nothing ever could. Again, I made this video so maybe you guys could understand her reason for being so big and why so many people love her if you don't remember her or if you haven't watched her. Because she's really important and she needs to be spoken about more. I couldn't be more happy that she's finally back in WWE alongside her husband, having a great match last night. Again, that match was really, really good. I loved every second of it. But yeah, thank you.